Well, this mom murdered her 7-year-old son and then called me from jail wanting to talk about it. Stick around and I'll tell you what happened in this case that I've remained mum about for almost 3 years. Good golly, Ms. Molly. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Profiling Evil Live. It is really nice to see you all pouring in here. This is kind of an interesting subject, isn't it? And reading some of the comments, it's obvious that this is upsetting to a lot of you. And frankly, it was to me as well when it all unfolded. It unfolded 3 years ago. And I have remained quiet about this as the criminal justice system worked its way through. And I'll talk a little bit about it. I'm going to show some video and we're going to talk a little with all of you. But thank you to my mods for jumping in and running things tonight and keeping things nice and honest here. And hello to everybody. Southern Sash, your comments probably are speaking for everybody on holy smokes, what's going on with this one? And yes, this is crazy. And so right off the bat, I want to know how many of you, and I've seen a few of you talking in the chats, but how many of you remember good golly Ms. Molly from many years ago, as we used to do Profiling Evil Lives, and she would get on and chat with us, and many of you would chat with her. And we're going to tell her story tonight. We're also going to do a couple of other things tonight. And it is a little bit shameful, but it's for the right reasons. Our new Children's Justice Center that we have been promoting with my books, Deceived, is going to be breaking ground on February 1st. So next week, that thing is going to break ground. And construction is expected to take 1 year. And so I'm going to put this up here because tonight I want to just invite any of you. I know that many of you who have already purchased my books, but anybody who wants to hit that QR code and get a book tonight, I'll try to sign it while we're on the air. And if you're in the United States, you can get this deal. I'll sign it. We'll personalize it and get it off to you. The money is going toward this Children's Justice Center. Children's Justice Center is a place where kids that have been sexually and psychologically or physically abused can receive help and be prepared for the criminal justice system. So it's a place where they can get forensically examined by doctors. It's a place where they can have medical exams. And it's a place where law enforcement working with forensic interviewers can figure out what on earth happened to those poor little tykes in the course of the assault that they tragically endured. So feel free to hit that QR code at any time. And again, please forgive me if it's shameful to you that I'm promoting that, but I care a lot about these kids and a lot about getting this center as much money as we can to help them with doing things like buying the right kind of forensic camera gear to do these interviews. I'm going to try to shoot some video next week at the groundbreaking and maybe go live that night, and we'll talk a little bit about that at that particular time. So consider that, and I'll quit harping on that periodically. I'll jump in. And thank you so much for everyone that's coming in. We've got a little over 600 people so far, and it's great to see so many of you that have supported me from the very beginning. And I just have to say once again, thank you again. I did want to mention too that Doc M is on here, and he's been struggling with some pretty serious health issues, and his dear wife, Miss J, and I'm not going to reveal any more than that to avoid doxing someone, other than to say how glad I am that they are on as much as I am to see all the rest of you. So we're going to jump into this. We're going to play pieces of it, and we're going to talk. And it looks like a few of you are weighing in that you remember who good golly Ms. Molly is. and we'll play a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit. Thanks for joining Profiling Evil in this special edition on Good Golly Ms. Molly. Hey, please make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. I think it's right here now. And make sure you're ringing the bell so you get all of our notifications. And please consider sharing us with your friends. Now, it was February in 2021 when I received an email from a channel member. She was reaching out to me needing help. Now, many of you who have been with Profiling Evil from the start are going to recognize her hashtag. She went by Good Golly Ms. Molly. She was alongside many of you, and she was on so many of our chats as she chatted with all of you on different things that we were talking about. Now, her email stated that she had concerns that our mods had put her in timeout. She was pretty darn engaged at the time, but it sounds like she might have gotten a little out of hand from time to time. Well, as her emails continued, she began sharing concerns with me that were really disturbing. Concerns that she believed her husband was the bridge guy from the Delphi murder cases. Now, I hope that this goes without saying, but that's when I put on the brakes and I stopped our discussions, advising her that she needed to reach out to local law enforcement and talk to them about it. Specifically, she needed to reach out to the Indiana State Police with her concerns. Now, if any of you have sent concerns or tips on stuff that was going on, you probably had the same response from me. I want to stop there for a minute and just chat about this. And again, remember back in those early days, we were doing a lot of discussion about the Delphi murder case and about this bridge guy, showing the imagery. I think many of you are aware I spoke on several occasions with the Indiana State Police, who asked me just to kind of lay low and let this one just work its course, which we did. And I'll tell you, that's difficult at times when you know how much everyone wants to hear about what's going on. And I don't have any insider angles here, folks. I don't want you to think I've got information on these cases that maybe you don't have. But because of my background, when I reach out, I usually get a call back from a superintendent of a state police or something else to chat a little bit. And I never ask questions that have not been publicly revealed. But it's really tempting. And in this particular case, man, Delphi, a big case, was moving along. And I had one of our subscribers who was saying, hey, I think my husband is the Delphi killer. And of course, I was throwing my hands up and saying at that point to Good Golly Ms. Molly that timeout. You need to talk to these people at the Indiana State Police, and you need to go to your local law enforcement because of who she was indicating was the suspect that she believed her husband, and that he was living in their jurisdiction. So kind of crazy. And folks, I'm seeing a lot of conversation going on between all of you. So please enjoy it and have fun. Somebody was just asking about the QR code, so I'm going to stick that back up here for just a second. If you hold your camera up to that, you'll be able to hit the QR code and shoot off the requisite amount of money. And that includes shipping, by the way, on this deal that I'm doing. And we'll get those books off to you. But Good Golly Ms. Molly was convinced that her husband was the Delphi killer. And not only that, but that he was a serial killer. And wanted me to investigate that. And folks, I've said it before, I don't investigate crime. Authorized police officers investigate crime. And I, like many others, just yap about it on YouTube, but try to add a little perspective from my experience and background. And that's what I tried to do in that particular case. But let's continue on. I'm going to continue watching your comments. Just so many of you on here, and it's really fun to see this. So let's get into this a little further. Well, Ms. Molly assured me that she would, and we didn't speak again for more than 6 months. Now, in my own way, I was able to confirm that the reporting did in fact actually occur. But I do remember that fleeting moment when she gave me this information that I thought, holy cow, do I exploit this information? I mean, what an incredible video this would have made. And it certainly would have led toward likes and clicks and all kinds of things. But thankfully, I suppressed those impulses and I took what I considered to be the high road. I quickly placed the integrity of the investigation over the possibility that I could get a few more subscribers by coming out with something so breaking. Now, I want to reiterate that while I suggested that she reach out to law enforcement, I also followed up to make sure that she did, in fact, do that, contacting authorities with her concerns. Her concerns, again, were that her husband was a serial killer. And then things went quiet. That is until March 1st, 2021, when this former Profiling Evil channel member made some fatal decisions. Now, you're probably wondering who she is, so let's just cut to the chase. The channel member, known as Good Golly Mizz Molly, is actually Alison Gail Jones, a 39-year-old wife and mother from Bishop, Georgia. Now, I assume you're all going to go out and look her up, and hopefully you'll remember her from those chats. Well, after months of her delusional thinking, and I'm going to stop there for a minute. Let's just see what some of the comments are here about Allison and how many of you remember her. Again, she was very engaged. In fact, when this whole case broke, that ended up having me working with local law enforcement where things happened and sharing some of those conversations and experiences as part of their investigation. And for those of you who are still looking for that, you can go to profilingevil.com and you can also order the book there or at this link. And I just don't remember if I put the link in the description or not, folks. So for those of you that are on your phone, I'm sorry. That might be a little more difficult. And for those who are wondering what in the heck this book thing is I'm talking about, I'm just running a little special tonight for anybody that uses this QR code. The Children's Justice Center that we have been donating the proceeds of Deceived toward is breaking ground on February 1st. We're so thrilled about it. And so we're just reminding those who might be interested and may want to take advantage of that. But as we talk about this case, yeah, this creates an incredibly difficult challenge. And for about 4 months, I didn't hear anything from Allison after she reported to Indiana State Police and to local law enforcement that she believed her husband was the Delphi serial killer. And so we're here. We'll jump back into this. Unable to reconcile her belief that her husband was the Delphi serial killer, Alison Jones constructed a plan that she believed would protect her and her 7-year-old son from becoming her husband's next murder victim. And I want to pause here just long enough to say her husband isn't a serial killer. That's been proven by police investigation. Now, as I explain what happened, it's probably not going to make any sense to any of you. In fact, even as I'm starting to say these words, I find myself reflecting back on a conversation I had with Dr. Fred Cowie, an expert on Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. I was talking to Dr. Cowie about some of the behavioral traits that were being exhibited in the Unabomber case. As I dug into some of the decisions that the Unabomber was making, Dr. Cowie reminded me that while Unabomber's decisions might not make sense to me, they make perfect sense to him. And with that, to Alison Jones, her plan made perfect sense to her. Holy cow, folks. I'm so sorry. I miss having the back office. I just signed a book to Crystal. So, Crystal, thank you so much. And Jennifer, thank you. And we'll get those out tomorrow in the mail. Now, we're talking about the case of Good Golly Ms. Molly. This is one of our subscribers here at Profiling Evil. Many of you will remember her from 3 years ago. And sadly, she ended up committing a crime, and we're talking about that. We're just going into the actual crime right now. So let's jump back into this. I want to go into what that plan was. You see, on that early morning in March of 2021, while Alison Jones' husband was getting ready for work, and she was doing what she did every day, trying to get her son ready for school, she put her plan into motion. Her son, a good-looking little boy that I'm showing on the image here, Maddox, should have been getting ready for school. Now, he either really did have, or Alison made up, that he had an earache, and she told her husband that he wasn't going to be going to school that day. He kept getting ready, thinking, well, okay, my son's sick. Now, she decided to keep him home from school that day, and then, as the child lay in bed, Alison went into her room and got her 9mm semi-automatic handgun and walked into the bedroom and shot her son in the head. Well, hearing the gunshot, Alison's husband ran to the bedroom, and as he approached, Alison turned and fired a shot at him, narrowly missing the guy. Her intent was to kill him too, this person that she believed was a serial killer. Her husband jumped on her, and he wrestled the gun away from her, and then he called 911, and the call went in at about 7:20 in the morning. When police arrived, the husband pointed at Alison and said, "Arrest her. She did it." Well, first responders were unable to save Maddox's life, and he died at the scene.
I'm John Sherrick in Morgan County. A mother accused of opening fire inside the family's home in Morgan County and killing her 7-year-old son in his bedroom and shooting at her husband, the boy's father, who then called 911. Deputies charged the mother, 36-year-old Alison Jones, with murder and aggravated assault. Investigators interviewed both parents, worked into the night, gathering evidence inside their home to try to figure out what led up to this tragedy in Morgan
County. A 7-year-old boy shot to death in his bedroom. And tonight, his mother is in jail, charged with murder. Investigators say it was the woman's husband, the boy's father, who called 911 early this morning. John Sherrick is on that story for us tonight.
Investigators continued to work inside this home into the night, gathering evidence where a 7-year-old boy was shot to death by, they say, his own mother.
He was in a bedroom in the house.
His bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Chief Deputy Keith Howard with the Morgan County Sheriff's Office says investigators have charged 36-year-old Alison Jones with killing her 7-year-old son Maddox, and they're also charging her with shooting at her husband, Maddox's father, Douglas Jones. Firing several rounds from a handgun, Doug Jones called 911 at about 7 a.m.
Well, he was calling to report that his son had been shot.
Howard says deputies arrested Alison Jones at the home without incident, interviewed both parents to try to figure out what led up to the shooting.
We had no prior calls to service here that we could tell domestic related, but the information we were provided right now between the husband and the wife, that's what we're vetting through to see if the crime scene matches their statements.
It's a total shock.
Liz Marchant is the president of the Riverwalk at Appalachia Homeowners Association. Each home in this subdivision, about 70 miles east of Atlanta, sits on more than 5 acres. Morgan County records show Doug Jones bought the home in 2015. Nice neighbors, Marchant says.
We are all just devastated for this family, and it's truly just heartbreaking.
The GBI will conduct an autopsy and ballistics tests. The mother remains in the Morgan County Detention Center. Investigators are asking anyone with any information that can help to call the Morgan County Sheriff's Office.
So thank you so much. We've had a couple more books purchased. Wendy, thank you. We got your book on the way. And Caroline, thank you. So great of you to do that. And also Elizabeth, thank you. So whether you're doing it on the website at profilingevil.com or from this QR code. Those who are interested, you can get these books. And tonight I'm trying to sign them and at least shout you out. And folks, this image that you see on the screen, for those who have just come in, is a brand new Children's Justice Center. This is a place where children who are physically, emotionally, or sexually abused are brought, where they can be forensically and physically examined, forensically interviewed by experts, not just cops, the old way we used to do it when I was in those kinds of investigations, but PhDs and masters that go in and conduct these forensic interviews to understand what's going on in the assault, what happened, and then also giving them the counseling and assistance they need to prepare for the criminal justice system. And we have donated since the very beginning the proceeds from Deceived to go to building that Children's Justice Center. And some of you have seen that there have been a number of little clips I brought on where I brought on the center director or other people as we've made substantial contributions over the last couple years. So this is so exciting that that ground is being broken in just a matter of a couple of days on this thing. So thank you so much. But yeah, so here we have this woman who is having these delusions. She reached out to me and asked for my help in trying to get her husband, who she believed was the Delphi serial killer, investigated and placed into custody. And of course, my role is not to do that, and connected her with not only Indiana State Police, but with her local law enforcement agency. And then things went quiet. I didn't hear anything until that horrific morning when she murdered her 7-year-old son and shot her husband. And like that comment I made about Dr. Cowie, I spent a lot of time traveling around in the Western United States teaching criminal behavior, and he would talk about the Unabomber, Ed Kaczynski, which shows how old I am, I guess. And in many occasions, we would talk about it, and he just implanted in my brain something that I want to leave with all of you, and that is that while it doesn't make sense to you and me, it makes perfect sense to the predator that makes a decision to do some of these things. And so we have to kind of vicariously step out of our own value system and into the mind of a predator if we want to try to understand a predator. Now, some of you have been asking about mental illness and what might have led up to her delusion. And I think maybe some of that will get answered as we go along. And again, I want to just shout out to all of you. Number one, thank you for the very professional conduct as you discuss this back and forth amongst yourself. And thanks for being with us. So let's jump back in. And if you may have noticed, I'm not touching the mute button anymore. So here we go. It took almost 3 years for the details of what happened in this horrific event to come out in court. And I want to share those with you. But before I share the details, I want to tell you what happened next. You see, Alison was arrested, questioned as much as they could till she got an attorney. And then she was transferred to the county jail where she sat. She made her first appearance. She had a preliminary hearing, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then she was scheduled for her murder trial. And as she sat in jail, she decided that she wanted to talk to me on the phone, the guy from Profiling Evil. Well, I received a phone call from corrections officers who notified me that she wanted to talk to me, and they wondered if I'd accept her calls. Oh man, my mind was just spinning, racing, kind of back and forth, doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I told him I'd get back to him after I had conferred with the investigators in the case. And frankly, I planned on doing exactly that. I reached out immediately to the sheriff's office and I talked to them, and then I completed all of the necessary paperwork to have the conversation. And when you do that to somebody in jail, you actually have to put your charge card on the books so that all the phone calls can be charged to your phone call or to your charge card. I advised the officers that they could tell Alison that I would talk to her. But before she spoke to me, I wanted her to know two things. Number one, that I was going to share everything that we talked about with investigators. And number two, that I'd only talk to her after she'd spoken to her attorney about her request. Well, a few weeks passed, and finally I got a phone call back from the corrections officer stating that her defense team absolutely didn't want her talking to me. Would you expect anything differently? And of course, we honored the suggestion. So let's stop there for a minute, because I want you to weigh in on what you would have done in that position. I mean, obviously, we want a YouTube channel to grow. So, like I see a couple of thumbs up that have gone in here, and I see just a couple of loves. I want this thing to grow. I want Profiling Evil to grow, but we got to put the criminal justice system first. Thanks for this really kind thing, Ducking Felonies. I've never heard you say anything unethical or unprofessional. That is really kind, and it's something that I strive for. Did she contact you prior to what she did? Well, we talked, as I said, on a number of occasions when she was sharing the fact that she believed her husband was a serial killer. But once she went to jail and contacted me, then I had to do a couple of things, which I tried to outline in the video just a moment ago. And that was, first and foremost, you have to get on the books there so that they can make a collect call, or that you can call them and arrange a time. And it requires logging in, putting your charge card information in so that you can accept the charges on the call. But also, I was working alongside and trying to coordinate so that whatever I did didn't injure the investigation, but that it didn't injure Alison either, because she still has that due process that she's deserving of. And frankly, folks, you might think, well, no, what's really important is to get these people put behind bars. But no, the criminal justice system I truly believe in, and I believe that it is it's the best we got. And she needed to talk to her attorney before she talked to me, and rightly so. Her attorney then said no more. And so all my conversations were prior to the actual shooting, and she never shared exactly what happened in the shooting with me personally. But that doesn't mean that won't be one of the follow-up videos that we do from prison. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, let me see. Some of you are saying you would have done the same thing, made the right choice. Yeah, but how many of you would have been tempted to just get all the info you could and move forward with it? Man, it's really neat to see all your comments on here. Let's continue this. But I did also what I promised, and I advised the investigators that everything that had happened up until that point. Now, concerned that Alison was involved in a homicide, and knowing that she had communicated with me and perhaps a few other YouTube creators, I reached out to two of them to advise them of the situation and to offer my suggestion that they stay away from this thing until it's properly disposed of. Now, Alison didn't reach out to any other YouTube providers, but she had made donations on their channel and weighed in chats as well. I'm glad to report that they followed my recommendation, and these YouTubers didn't speak, either of them, to Alison or anyone tied to the case. And then I waited. And over the months and years that followed, I'd received these periodic updates on the case as it slowly marched its way through that criminal justice system. I hoped that I would learn more at the preliminary hearing, but Alison waived that preliminary hearing, and the case was set for trial. As the 2024 trial date neared, the prosecution and the defense reached a plea negotiation, and on January 3rd of this year, Alison Jones pleaded guilty to murdering her 7-year-old son, Maddox. The school was just torn apart. The community was torn apart. But she had pled guilty. Now, in that plea hearing, I learned that Jones had been evaluated and found competent to stand trial for murder. Now, that means that she knew right from wrong. It also meant that she could understand all of the court proceedings, and most importantly, the weight of her voluntary guilty plea. I also discovered that Jones had a history of mental illness, starting when she was only 15 years old. I suspect it happened before that. By the time she was 17, she had attempted suicide and at age 22 tried to kill herself again. I'm still scratching my head how she had access to firearms, how she had hunting licenses. But at age 39, maybe she'd made it 15 years without any problems. Who knows? But in the hearing, we also learned that a state psychiatrist and Jones's personal psychiatrist agreed and provided the diagnosis that she had major depressive disorder and also that she had major anxiety disorder. Now, her personal physician also diagnosed her with an unspecified delusional disorder of a severe type. In that hearing, I want to also kind of remark on a couple things that the investigators confirmed. They confirmed that Jones had, in fact, contacted the Morgan County Sheriff's Office about 6 months before the murder to report, even as falsely as it is, that her husband was a serial killer, the Delphi serial killer. The investigator carefully detailed how Jones outlined this sincere belief she had that her husband was the serial killer from Indiana. The investigator described Jones's demeanor during the interviews as frantic, panicked, and resolute that her husband was in fact responsible for serial deaths. The investigators concluded that there was nothing that would support these outlandish claims that she had. And the prosecution went on to say that Alison Jones's compulsion to shoot and kill her son some 6 months later was at least in part attributed to her continued false belief that her husband was a serial killer and a danger to both of them. In a wacky sort of way, she felt like she was an angel of mercy when she pulled the trigger. So I want to stop there for a minute and get your sense of this angel of mercy concept, because I've talked to a lot of predators or people who have committed homicide or other events over time that believe that they somehow were picking the better choice out of two. And one of the things that I've learned along the way is that people, when they can't make a decision, when they finally decide, even if it's a wacky decision, feel a sense of accomplishment that they have made a decision. And I think some of you are talking about like an Andrea Yates, and there are some other examples going on. I want to go back and read some of the comments that people have, and we'll see what you have to say about my thought right there. Shiloh, thank you so much for picking up Deceived, and Clarissa, thank you. We're knocking a few of these out, and it's just so nice of you to do this. Again, this is for the new Children's Justice Center that's opening. Renee, I'm going to sign a book for you right now while we're talking. And let's see here. I think this is an interesting comment, Shack Lady. Mental health issues are an epidemic. They are. That one of the things that I saw questioning coming up in our discussion was someone was saying, why did the prosecutor allow her to negotiate a plea? And there are a number of reasons, but the primary reason is there was a heavy mental health diagnoses from two different physicians that she was suffering from mental health challenges. And that alone is something that can weigh in her favor as far as getting a conviction. And this prosecutor he may have allowed her to plead guilty, but that guilty plea was to a life sentence, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But let me just sign this book to Renee. And please keep your comments coming in. And Renee, thank you so much for doing that. That's very kind of you. And those books, everybody, will go out tomorrow, and you will be able to get those. It usually takes about 5 to 6 days to get those. Now, I want to finish this out, and then we're going to go back and look through some of your comments. Think back for a moment to my conversation with Dr. Fred Cowie. It might not make sense to us, but it makes perfect sense to them, the criminal. In Alison Jones's mind, she felt like the only way that she could protect her son and maybe even herself from her murderous husband was for her to kill her son in order to protect him. Okay, now got a whole bunch of moms out there and a whole bunch of dads out there, and I want you to kind of noodle that one for a moment. It made better sense for her to take control and kill her son than in her psychoses wait for her husband to commit another homicide because she thought he was a killer. Now, some of you are asking, how do I get the books outside of the U.S.? I'm sorry, I can't get them shipped to you very easily. They're signed. It just, the cost to go out of the country is pretty high. But you can go to Amazon and pick up either book directly from Amazon, and you'll get local shipping, and should get it probably faster than the people that are getting a signed one right now, but it obviously won't be signed. Jenny says, I love the concept of making perfect sense to the killer, Unabomber and Yates. And, you know, today something really strange happened. In fact, I'm going to have a little short come out on it tomorrow. If any of you were watching the case in Ventura County of the woman who stabbed her boyfriend 108 times, and the judge found her guilty of a lesser charge, stabbed her boyfriend 108 times, killing him. She killed her dog. She was aware enough that she hung on to the knife all night long, and when police tried to arrest her the next morning, her defense attorney says she plunged the knife into her neck, but there's a booking photo of her later. She might have scratched her neck and cut herself a little bit, but I'm questioning the plunging. But she ended up getting 2 years of probation and 100 hours of community service. No prison time. She murdered someone, 108 stab wounds. That means she didn't stop. And the court's decision was, well, she was kind of new to marijuana, and she was having a hallucinogenic psychotic event because of pot. So we really can't hold her responsible. I am just still outraged by that. She got away with murder, and the state of California failed that young man who was murdered and his family, who are now facing a life without their son. Prosecutors would sum up what I'm thinking, and probably each of you are thinking, when he said, it's absolutely crazy to say that, but that's pretty much what emerged in the case. Yeah, in some wacky way, she felt like she was an angel of mercy, and she not only was going to kill her son, but she was going to kill her husband, and missed. And the question is, was she going to kill herself? Now, in the end, the state clarified that the plea agreement was made after they completed a thorough examination of all of the medical reports, of Jones's medical history, and a review of the case in detail. And remember, Jones had been diagnosed with this dependence disorder on opioids too at the same time. So she was under the influence of drugs, at least an addiction, and then, of course, these mental health issues. The state said, quote, "We came to the conclusion that it would be best to resolve the case with the recommendation of life with the possibility of parole if she would just plead guilty but mentally ill." And that's exactly what Alison Jones did. And now she's in the custody of the Georgia Department of Corrections for at least the next 30 years. Now that means she's going to be age 69 or 70 before she's ever eligible for parole. Think about that for a moment, because I'm going to now put this in a little bit of perspective, because while she might be 69 or 70, think of little Maddox, who would have been probably turning about 40 years old. This kid might have been married. He might have had children. He might have been some scientist who solved some crazy disease or solved world hunger. But he's never going to be. In his closing comments, the district attorney said that he hopes that Alison Jones never gets out of prison. As all of this fell on the ears of everybody in the courtroom, Alison Jones finally had her moment as she sat there in her yellow prison clothes, handcuffed and shackled. Most of the time through the hearing, she sat with her hands kind of held closely to her chin. You could see the handcuffs there. And periodically, she could be seen wiping a tear from her face. My question is, was she crying for herself? Or had the reality of what she'd done finally sunk in? You know, when she was given a chance to address the court, she told the judge that she wanted the community and her family to know how terribly sorry she was for what happened. She commented, quote, "I loved Maddox more than anything on earth. I'm truly sorry for what happened," close quote. Her husband was given 2 chances to address the court, but he declined on both counts. So my question as we kind of wrap this one up, folks, is what are your thoughts on this one? Now, mental health experts suggest that friends and family members of people who suffer from mental health issues should regularly be reminded that there's help available. Mental health problems can be treated. Experts advise that those who deal with these kinds of situations with family members who are struggling this way, or if you're struggling yourself, that they need support. You need to ask questions. You need to listen to ideas and be responsive when the topic of mental health comes up. Most importantly, you need to remind your friend or your family member, maybe even yourself, that there are people that care about them. Now, perhaps one day down the road, Alison Jones is going to make another phone call to me for that jailhouse conversation. I've done it a lot of times before, and I'd certainly welcome it now that the case is over. But I'm wondering, how would you feel about her sharing her story at this point? I mean, it sounds like today she's at least free of what some say was an opioid addiction. I suspect as time goes on, and frankly, my hope is as time goes on, that she'll come to grips with the traumatic harm that she's left in her wake and in her decisions. But most importantly, I hope that her husband and her family can somehow find peace. Well, thanks, folks, and please visit profilingevil.com and sign up for the BOLO. BOLO stands for Be on the Lookout, and it's our digital newsletter. I'm going to stop there, and we're going to just talk for a bit and see what questions you might have. But I want to thank Peggy for picking up Deceived, and I'm signing a book for her right now. And then we're going to go back and read some of your comments and try to answer those. There were a batch of them coming through, and it was just kind of hard during while this was running. But so Peggy, thank you so much, Peggy. We'll get that off to you tomorrow. And everyone that's purchased a book, thank you so much. So yeah, let's go back and let's talk about a couple of things. There was a question, people asking where in Ogden will the Children's Justice Center be. It's going to be built where, if you're familiar with the Ogden area, where the old Naval Recruiting Center is on 20th Street, just above Jackson, so by the Ogden School District, and it's a really beautiful spot tucked back in to the trees there. It's going to be a really beautiful thing. And I suspect on the evening of the 1st, there will be some stuff in the media that you'll be able to see. So again, any of you who are interested in donating toward that book and toward that Children's Justice Center, I'll just put that QR code up there again, or you can go to profilingevil.com and get the book. So let's look at a couple of questions that folks are having. And I'm sorry if your question was quite a ways back. There's just so many, it's kind of hard to go back and see. A lot of you talking about marijuana and whether it would make you have those kinds of events. Psychiatrists testified that it absolutely would. On court TV today, there were defense attorneys who were saying absolutely this was the right sentence, and then prosecutors, and of course me, saying that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of, and that a murderer got away with this, but nobody really seems to care because the judge has made the decision. And if you see the father of the victim on the news, you're going to just see how tragically this has hit the family. And it looks like most of you are weighing in the same way, that yeah, it shouldn't happen. Thank you to those of you who are filling in, like where you can get the books and how you can do that. And then I want to just see, there were a couple of questions that I saw scrolling through, but I'm having a hard time doing it. Here's JoJo saying, if Alison has a 30-year sentence, she needs to have mental health treatment. I'm sure that will be part of everything she goes through, JoJo. And interestingly, as Michelle Morris said, there's a real risk of being injured in the prison system if things don't go right. So, Elizabeth, it looks like you picked up a book, and I'm going to get that signed off. Let me just check one thing here. And again, folks, thanks so much. We're going to continue going on for a bit. We'll answer some questions. Some of you have had questions about where the groundbreaking will be. It will be publicized and should be on the news as well. And so hopefully that will help answer that question. And Stephanie, I've got yours in the works here too. So thank you so much. Let's see. Let's see here. I know Wild Man's mom says, I know I'm crazy, so just keep a check on it and work through it. And no, I don't want to take a life because of it. Oh, well, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you, Brandy. Very kind comment about integrity. And I guess integrity really should be the most important thing to all of us. Michelle South, thank you. Stephanie Womax, great to see you flying in here. Joy Trujillo seems to have a lot of issues going on. Good luck with you, Joy. You seem pretty unhappy. Deborah Lyons, yeah. When you're dealing with mental health, it's really difficult, isn't it? Let's see. I wanted to make mention, somebody put up there, hey, profiling devil, it's profiling evil. But I did see your comment going by. I just didn't get her. Oh, 616 Love, thank you. She's already got the book, but she's supporting the cause. That is really awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and Harley is saying, "Hey, I used to live in that area, and that's a very beautiful location." Yeah, it's going to be really neat. And if you can see, I mean, the center is going to be really cool, and it's going to cost a whole bunch more than we're able to donate, but we are able to take care of a lot of things that the center director needs, and that just makes us so happy to be able to do that. So let's see if we've got anything else here. Tracy's weighing in saying some people do have bad mental reactions to marijuana. Certainly what the defense is claiming in this particular one. And so, yeah, Pamela weighs in. Yeah, it's Deborah says there's no mental health help in prison. Well, there certainly are mental health counselors in the prison. Whether it's the quality you think that they should be getting or not, I don't know. I mean, think about Dr. Joni Johnston, who is on our channel often and is an incredible forensic psychologist. She works in the prison system, so I would say there are certainly some great ones. And so let me just sign this book here. And please keep chatting with each other. Stephanie, thank you so much. We'll get that off to you in the morning. And let's see. And Elizabeth, I think I did get yours off too. Elizabeth, I have yours in the stack, Elizabeth M. So I just want to make sure, and I feel bad I'm taking time on that. Candy Cooking just fired in, purchasing a book. Candy, thank you so much. And there you go, Candy. Thank you. Elizabeth, I think I held yours up, but if I didn't, I'm going to send you a personal email and we'll check that out. So let's see. A lot of people talking about marijuana. Yeah, we kind of lost track. I shouldn't have said that because it took us off of Alison Jones's case, but yeah, it was really troubling. So anyway, folks, thank you for your support of Profiling Evil. I hope that you're finding value in what we try to put out on our channel. And I want you to know how much it means to me to have you join in. I want to shout out to a special friend and thank him for publicizing this on his site as well. And to all of you, thank you. Let's just, I got a couple more things to hit here, and I'm going to watch your comments. And please, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and join Profiling Evil. And we just released the first issue for 2024. The only way you're going to get it is if you're signed up for it. So go to the Profiling Evil website, like I'm showing here, and scroll down to this section on how to sign up for the BOLO. And we never share your information. So you're also going to see when you get there that we've designed our website a little differently with more up-to-date information. So please check it out. And remember that you can find Profiling Evil on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And folks, if you like podcasts, I think you're really going to enjoy Profiling Evil podcasts. You can find them on your favorite podcast platform. Folks, before I go, I want to shout out to Karen R. Thank you so much for picking up Deceived. I'll get that off to you tomorrow. I didn't want you to miss being acknowledged for picking that up. And don't forget, Profiling Evil choir practice is back, and it's on the first Monday of every single month at 8 p.m. Mountain Time.
Hey everybody, look who I'm hanging out with. And listen, I'm not attending choir practice, but I just wanted to tell you that you need to be watching Profiling Evil YouTube. Don't miss it. I'm telling you, there's something there for you every single time. I never miss. You shouldn't either.
And before I forget, also, Marty S., thank you so much. We're going to get this off to you, and maybe you can tell me what's happening with little Summer Wells in Tennessee. But thank you so much for supporting us on this. We just had a great choir practice with Vinnie Politan of Court TV and attorney and podcaster Melanie Little. In February, I'm going to have on FBI profiler and author Mark Safrick, and we're going to be joined by a California police officer who's working down in infamous Skid Row. He's going to teach us a little more about what choir practice means to police officers. So thanks again for your support, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.